60 and beyond. The 4 fruits that haunt your health, and 4 you must devour now. In a town where whispers of the old folktale still haunted the streets, a shadowy mystery unraveled. They said the ripe, red fruit, the one that glistened so seductively in the sun, held secrets from beyond the grave. It was said that everyone over 60 who dared to take a bite began to feel an eerie connection to a world unseen, a spectral call that gnawed at their minds. The fruit seemed harmless, but could it really be a doorway to something sinister? As the sun dipped low, casting eerie shadows against the ancient oaks, elderly citizens would gather near the town square. Their voices trembled, stories poured out like a chilling breeze. Old Mrs. Thompson swore the fruit whispered her name, echoing in the quiet dark. "It told me things I shouldn't know," she confessed, her chest tightening with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Her trembling hands shook, and the collective gasps from her audience intensified, charging the night with a palpable tension. But it wasn't just tales of horror that danced in their minds. Amidst the growing suspense, rumors flew about 4 miraculous fruits, hidden gems that promised health and vigor to those brave enough to seek them out. They whispered of golden oranges that sparkled like the sun, delivering vitality to the weary. Ethereal blueberries, rich in color, that could chase away the shadows of age. Each fruit held the potential of life renewed, yet lingering questions remained. Just when everyone thought the chilling atmosphere couldn't get heavier, the faint sound of rustling leaves fell silence over the crowd. An unnerving breeze wrapped around them, as if nature itself was urging them to remember, to act before it was too late. What if we don't find them? A voice quivered, fear gripping the air. What if we choose wrong? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And just when the tension reached a climax, a shadow flickered at the edge of the forest. A figure stepped into the dim light, cloaked in mystery, holding something in their hand, a fruit radiating a ghostly glow. The crowd held its breath, hearts pounding, aching to know the truth hidden within that singular, unsettling orb. What power did it contain? What fate awaited them if they dared to take a bite? The air buzzed with anticipation, the unspoken question echoing louder than ever. Were they ready to confront the haunting truth, or would they let fear dictate their choices? The figure emerged fully from the shadows, the glow of the fruit illuminating their face. It was Clara, the woman who had stitched together the memories of the old town better than anyone. Her eyes, once bright with mirth, now bore the weight of the unspoken, and fear clung to her like a chilly fog. "Clara?" Mrs. Thompson's voice quivered, disbelief mingling with dread. "What have you got there?" Her lips trembled, barely letting out articulate words as she lifted the fruit toward the hesitant crowd. This is the key. The eldritch pearl," she murmured. "It's said to be the first of the 4. It can grant the knowledge of those who have passed. But you must be ready for their truths." Gasps rippled through the gathering like rushing water, and whispers grew louder. The air turned thick with tension as vivid illustrations of the past wrapped around their minds. What truths awaited them? Were they even prepared for what lay hidden within this haunting fruit? A low murmur traveled among the onlookers. "But at what cost, Clara?" someone dared to ask, their voice trembling. She hesitated, a shadow passing over her features. "It exacts a toll, not just knowledge, but perhaps something of greater value, something from the deepest corners of your soul." Fear, thick as molasses, wrapped around the crowd. They all seemed to process the implications, the potential connections to loved ones long gone. But even as hope flickered, the terror of what they might lose wove its dark tendrils tighter around their hearts. What might they have to sacrifice to understand the truth held within? Clara held the eldritch pearl like it could shatter into nothingness at any moment. "If you choose to approach this fruit, know that you may return changed." Her voice faltered, revealing a haunting undercurrent. "Or you may not return at all." Murmurs became more frenzied, panic beginning to bubble over. "We can't let fear control us," shouted Walter, an old soldier known for his stubbornness. "We owe it to our loved ones. If this fruit connects us to them, we must at least try." His voice rumbled with determination but crackled with fear. Yet, as he spoke those words, the wind howled, stirring the leaves around them like an ominous warning. Clara stepped forward slowly. "Remember, you stand on the precipice of the unknown." Just then, the fruit pulsed, radiating an otherworldly light that cast eerie shadows against their faces, deepening the lines of worry etched on each brow. Gasps turned to anxious breaths. The crowd wavered, caught between temptation and abject terror. "What do we do?" Someone whispered, the doubt palpable. "What happens if we choose wrong?" Suddenly, an elder reached out, trembling fingers brushing the surface of the glowing fruit. The crowd collectively held its breath, a knot of solidarity and fear tightening in their stomachs. Would they heed the tales haunted by loss or seek the promise of knowledge? The air grew heavier, pregnant with expectation, as eyes fixated on Clara and the fruit. The moment hung tenuous in the twilight, an indecisive chill wrapping around them. A choice loomed ahead, one that could bind them together or tear them apart. Clara's eyes widened, and she suddenly took a step back, gasping, "Wait, what's that?" All heads turned to where her gaze fell, and they gasped in unison as a figure materialized just beyond the orchard's edge. A spectral silhouette emerged, piercing through the gathering gloom with a familiarity that sent chills through their veins. It was someone they all recognized, someone long thought to be lost forever. A somber connection ignited in the air. The threads of fate began to weave tighter around them. But just as hope flickered, shadows twisted and enveloped the figure, drawing it back into the darkness. The air filled with a whisper, a name barely audible, yet echoing through their hearts like a haunting melody. Are we truly prepared for the revelations that await us? Sharper than any blade, the questions sliced through them. The fruit glimmered ominously in Clara's hand, a stark reminder of the choices they must face. The night could either curse them or offer salvation, but one thing remained certain. The journey had only just begun. The crowd fell silent, each person straining to hear the whisper that had flickered through the air. The chill that chased down their spines quickly transformed into an unbreakable tension. Clara stood frozen, her breath catching as she looked where the figure had been, her eyes betraying a sudden glimmer of recognition. "Don't move," she ordered sharply, her voice cutting through the stillness. The wonder and dread rippling through the crowd threatened to break loose, and Clara couldn't allow chaos to spiral. "We don't know what is happening." But the elderly man who had reached for the fruit moments ago was already stepping forward, ignoring her warning. "What do you want?" he called, his voice cracked but steady. The shadows seemed to shift, flickering around them like smoke. Then, in the distance, the outline blurred and took form once more. It was indeed someone they all recognized, a beloved neighbor whose absence had haunted them for decades. Carol, with her kind smile and warm laughter, had been gone far too long. Heartbeats quickened. Could she truly be back? "Carol!" someone cried, stepping forward as if propelled. "Is it really you?" Just as hope surged, the fruit glimmered brighter, a pulse of energy washing through the orchard. The ground seemed to tremble beneath their feet. "Stay back!" Clara shouted, but her warning was lost in the rising tide of emotion. People surged forward, eager to embrace the lost spirit. In an instant, Carol's form flickered, shimmering like the surface of water disturbed by a pebble. Her expression grew pained, and the crowd's excitement faltered as darkness began to cloak her figure once more. I'm here," she whispered, but her voice transformed, echoing, distant, carrying the weight of unfulfilled promises. "You must choose wisely." "What do you mean?" "Choose what?" A young woman gasped, her hands trembling as she reached toward her long-lost friend. Carol's face shifted, moments of joy interspersed with sorrow, memories washing over her like waves. With each heartbeat, the crowd's desperation mounted. The eldritch pearl, still aglow in Clara's grasp, pulsated in rhythm with their collective heartbeat, as though it was a living testament to their pain and longing. "It will show you the truth," Carol said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But some truths may bring heartbreak. They come at a cost." "Cost?" Clara echoed, dread creeping back into her chest. What lay beneath the veil of their deepest desires? The specter shifted again, as if struggling to stay visible as shadows clawed at her edges. Then, as quickly as she appeared, a gust of wind swept through the orchard, swirling the gathered leaves, and Carol's form dissolved into the gathering darkness. The crowd's hopes faded into an echo of despair. "Don't go," a child cried, the innocence in the plea amplifying the sense of loss. "Please don't leave us." Silence devolved into an anguished murmur, as they realized the fracture between this world and the next. They stood divided, yearning for connection, yet paralyzed by fear. Clara's heart raced, the weight of the fruit in her hand heavy as lead. She could feel the energy shifting in the air, the hum of anticipation buzzing through them like a live wire. "We must decide," she urged, gripping the fruit tighter. "Who here is willing to bear the cost? Who is ready to face what the Eldritch Pearl reveals?" The crowd fell still, each face etched with uncertainty and internal conflict, fear wrestling with the desire for closure. Who among them would step forward to uncover the truths they had buried? The night deepened, shadows whispered secrets, and somewhere deep in the orchard, the air thrummed with possibility and danger. "Are you ready to confront the shadows of your past?" Clara asked softly. Beneath her shaky breath lay the unspoken truth. Some pasts are better left untouched. As she spoke those words, the ground began to tremble again, more violently this time. Not just a warning, but an urge, a beckoning drawing them toward destiny intertwined with the ancient fruit. The ground split, and the choice was clearer than ever. What would they face when the light illuminated the darkness? And that was when they heard it, a final whisper, tangled in the air, a name that sent shivers down their spines once more. Mother. What lay on the other side of that name could change everything. What would it cost them to reach the truth? The ground trembled with a cacophony of uncertain echoes, a chaotic pulse that vibrated through the crowd's very core. Clara's heart pounded as she gripped the Eldritch Pearl tighter, feeling its heat seep into her palm, almost begging for release. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of voices rising like a tide, pressing against the barriers of reason and fear. "Mother." The name hung in the air, a cold breeze brushing past, like a shiver from the grave. Fear rippled through Clara, each heartbeat clawing at her resolve. The crowd had gone still, each person frozen in the grip of recognition, the weight of old wounds surfacing between them. From the shadows, a tall figure emerged, his features obscured. "Who are you? What do you want?" he shouted, voice tremulous yet fierce, carrying years of grief and anger. The crowd turned, eyes wide, searching for some sign of truth in the dark. Clara stepped forward, trying to channel her authority, hoping to anchor them against the pouring tide of emotions. I don't know yet," she admitted, casting a glance around. "But if we are to confront what was once lost, we need to prepare ourselves." The hum beneath them intensified, swirling like a storm. "Prepare for what?" a woman shouted from the back, her fear transforming into defiance. "What can this fruit possibly reveal that could be worth losing another one of us?" Clara felt a chill, the shadows closing in again as the whispers coiled tighter around them. What if facing the truth was about more than the past? What terrors lay hidden behind the veil of their choices? The earth rumbled. Clara took a deep breath. I think it is time to make a choice." Her voice barely sliced through the rising noise, but the crowd stilled again, confusion mirrored in their eyes. Another bright flare erupted from the Eldritch Pearl, illuminating the orchard briefly, revealing countless faces, desperate eyes longing for closure. The orchard had suddenly transformed, each tree seeming to lean closer, encroaching, as if the very landscape was in on the secret. A young man stepped forward, his face pale and uncertain. "What do you see?" he dared to ask, his voice quaking. "I don't know yet," Clara said again, her heartbeat matching the pulsing rhythm of the fruit as if they were connected by some unseen thread. "But the pearl can reveal any truth we desire, anything we have lost." The very mention of loss drew gasps. It was a reminder of pain a collective wound. Some looked hopeful, others visibly recoiled. Fear and despair battled in the air, an electric charge that sent shudders through their bodies. "Who wants to uncover their truth?" Clara implored, voice steady, but eyes betraying the tremors within. "Who dares risk the cost?" At that moment, An elderly woman stepped forward. Her hands trembled, yet her gaze was resolute. The truth is a burden, but I'm ready. I wish to see my daughter again. Murmurs spread like wildfire, both admiration and doubt threading through the crowd. Other faces began to reveal their stories, longing to confront their past through this strange power. Clara's heart ached as she realized how many were willing to bear the weight of revelation, to face the ghosts of their own, making that as she raised the eldritch pearl, it brightened anew. But with each pulse, the shadows curled impossibly closer. Clara's breath quickened as the ground beneath her feet split wider, a dark chasm revealing depths unseen. Suddenly, a child's voice pierced the growing tension, breaking the spell. "Mommy, what if it's a trick?" Heartfelt dread filled the small space, echoes of innocence battling against the weight of desperation. Clara's own heart tightened at the sound a child should never bear such burdens. Are we really prepared to open those doors? Clara whispered, battling her own doubts. Yet she sensed it, a current of energy pulsing, a choice lingering in the air, shimmering like the eldritch pearl itself. The night drew tighter, shadows flicking like candle flames around them, and something was about to break through. We must decide, and we must do it now, Clara urged, looking around as the weight of the moment grew palpable. And from the depths of the chasm came a low, haunting voice, echoing from the darkness. Choose or lose everything. What lay waiting behind those beckoning shadows? One thing was clear. No matter what choice they made, the truth would demand a steep price. And out of that uncertainty, a dread certainty crept. They might not all survive what was to come. The ground quaked with a deafening roar as the chasm widened, the darkness within it writhing and pulsating like a living entity. Clara felt a jolt of panic surge through her, squeezing her throat. All eyes were fixed on the gaping maw of shadow, its depths swallowing any glimmer of hope. "Mommy?" The child's voice trembled, eyes wide as saucers. Clara wanted to reach for the little one, to shield her from the oncoming storm, but she was rooted to the spot. How had it come to this? It was meant to be a moment of clarity, not a descent into chaos. The shadows of the orchard seemed to beckon, whispering promises and threats alike. What could be lurking in there? She thought, fear crashing over her like waves on a stormy sea. Clara glanced at the faces shrouded in uncertainty. Those who had once showed a flicker of courage now wore a mask of dread. "Clara, we can't," a man shouted, backing away as if he could escape the weight of the decision before them. "What if the truth is worse than we know?" Another echoing voice joined the fray. "We've buried our pasts for a reason. Why drag it into the light?" But Clara's resolve hardened. The air thickened, pressing down like a lead blanket, but she would not yield. "We need to understand. We cannot move forward if we're anchored by the past. What good is ignorance?" The moment hung heavy until the elderly woman, still clutching her resolve, stepped closer to the edge of the chasm. "I'm ready," she declared, voice fierce despite her frailty. "I want to see my daughter whatever it takes." With those words, Clara's heart leapt. They were not lost yet. She raised the eldritch pearl high, its radiant light slicing through the gloom, illuminating the anguished expressions before her. "If you choose to face the truth, take my hand." One by one, faces emerged from the crowd. A woman and a man, friends long ignored, stepped forward to join her. They looked at Clara, a tentative trust growing in their eyes. But still, fear lingered like a thick fog. "We can start with small truths," Clara suggested, hoping to ease their worry. "Let us unearth what rests closest to the surface." "Do it, Clara," the young man urged, his voice breaking. "Show us the way." Taking a deep breath, she directed her focus on the eldritch pearl. The whispers intensified, swirling like a tempest around her. "What is it we need to see?" she asked, her voice clear yet trembling. Clara's hand glowed, fueled by the desperate energy of the collective fears of the group. Suddenly, the ground shook as the shadows surged toward the pearl. Visions flickered in the air, a whirlwind of memories and faces, lost moments crashing against the present. Clara braced herself, heart pounding. Each frame ignited a raw emotion, a history tied tightly with anguish and regret. The visions settled around her like cobwebs. A child, a mother, the sound of laughter mingled with sorrow. Clara felt herself drawn into a moment, her own lost memories flickering at the edges of her mind. No, not her. She couldn't deal with that. Not now. Yet, the voices turned into screams of the past, echoing in her head. Choose or drown in despair. The darkness crooned in a taunting whisper. The dread coiled tighter around her chest, warmth spilling into cold dread. What if I can't make the right choice? The crowd pulsed with anticipation, some kneeling in prayer, others clutching their heads in despair. Clara raised the pearl higher, and in that instant, the ground beneath her seemed to roar back, shaking violently. I want to give up, she cried out against the cacophony. What lies beneath has held us captive long enough. I'm breaking free. But the shadows laughed, wrapping around her words, smothering her determination. The darkness loomed, ready to swallow all as the visions intensified. Clara felt the weight of every decision, every regret thrust upon her like an avalanche. The truths of her life twisted in shadow, threatening to consume her soul. Was this the cost of revelation? The price of clarity? Or was something more insidious lurking within the dark? Before she could explore it further, the underlying whisper escalated into a terrifying scream. You will choose, Clara, or you will lose everything. And just as she thought she could grasp onto that fleeting light, the chasm echoed with a bone-chilling voice. Will you shatter the illusion, or will the shadows claim you? Hope fought a losing battle against despair as Clara braced for the truth that awaited. The chasm trembled, begging to unveil its buried secrets. Who would emerge unscathed? Who would be forever marked? And as she steeled herself for the choice ahead, a chilling thought danced through her mind. What if the worst was yet to come? Clara's breath quickened as the ground roared beneath her feet, each tremor mirroring the pounding of her heart. The eldritch pearl crackled with energy, illuminating the darkness swirling around the chasm. Visions crystallized in the air, sharp and impossible to ignore. The memories captured within them were like shards of glass, glinting in the light, yet radiating pain. Look! A voice cried from the crowd, shaking Clara from her trance. Her gaze snapped toward the source, her heart racing as she saw the shadows morphing into familiar shapes. She flinched at the sight of an older man, face twisted with anguish, a photograph of a young girl clutched tightly in his hands. It was him, a father hopelessly clinging to a memory. Is that? Clara's mouth fell open, a thread of recognition tugging at her heart. But before she could finish her thought, the shadows surged forward again, smothering the light and engulfing the figure. The man's terrified scream echoed, split by despair. No, Clara shrieked, stepping forward instinctively, feeling the icy fingers of darkness brushing against her skin. Stay back. But something pulled at her, a vile curiosity mixed with dread. Words slipped from her lips before she could snatch them back. We need to go deeper. We have to confront our fears. The crowd shifted uneasily, uncertainty rippling through them like a wave. What if we don't come back? A voice quavered. Clara bit her lip, desperation bifurcating her resolve. We have to. Aaron would want this. We all have something to face. A murmur washed over the group, a tide of hesitant agreement mingling with terror. They were standing on the precipice of revelation, yet dread suffocated their courage like a heavy fog. Bring it on, then. A woman shouted, stepping beside Clara, the light from the pearl illuminating her determined expression. I'm not afraid of what I've buried. Clara's heart surged at the solidarity. With newfound courage, she shouted, let us uncover it together. Whatever it is, we face it. The atmosphere shifted, crackling with energy. Clara raised the pearl high once more, and the swirling shadows bent toward its light. Show us, she implored, voice echoing with a conviction that pierced the encroaching darkness. The moment hung like a fragile glass ornament, ripe for shattering. And then it happened. The visions ignited, their magnitude crashing over Clara and the crowd. Scenes ripped through the air, vivid and raw. A man regretting an unspoken apology, a mother, tears cascading down her face, clutching the broken remains of a forgotten family. The essence of their pain crashed over Clara like a tidal wave, each memory casting a shadow deeper than the last. Stop, she screamed, her head spinning with the weight of their collective suffering. But instead of retreating, the shadows thickened, wrapping tighter around the crowd, pulling them toward the chasm's edge. Clara felt herself being drawn in, her body screaming to break free, yet the days of grief held her captive. No, not again. She gasped. She fought against the wave of emotions, shadows reaching for her soul as desperation clawed at her. Just then, a sharp voice cut through the chaos. Clara. It was the elderly woman, striding toward the forefront with unexpected strength. We must believe. Together, we can break this cycle. The crowd stirred, fear replaced by a flicker of hope. Clara clutched the eldritch pearl tightly, heart racing. I'm not leaving anyone behind. She cried out, not ever again. But as Clara steadied herself, a chilling realization struck her. What if the truth lurking within the shadows was more devastating than their fears? What if facing it meant losing everything that anchored them? The whispers crescendoed, dark laughter echoing in her ears. You still haven't chosen, Clara. Will you confront the nightmare, or let the abyss claim you? A final tremor shook the ground, and Clara stood, teetering on the edge of the chasm. The shadows danced like living serpents, ready to strike. She knew that this was at the moment of truth. Are we ready to face what's down there? And in that breathless silence, Clara took a step closer, heart thundering in her chest. As the darkness surged forward, she felt an urge to leap into the unknown. What awaited them on the other side? Would they emerge whole, or would they dissolve into the shadows forever? The air grew thick as darkness swirled violently around them. Clara felt a shiver run down her spine, sensing that their moment to decide had slipped away. The walls of the chasm echoed her wild thoughts. What if this was just a cruel trick meant to bait them further into despair? The line between their fears and reality blurred. Clara, don't. We can't lose you. A voice barked from behind. It was Ben, one of the younger men in the group, fear lacing his tone. He pushed forward, reaching for her arm, but the shadows began to froth at the edges of their circle, threatening to consume them all. Stick together, Clara shouted. She felt a deep, feral instinct to protect those around her. With the eldritch pearl, she could lead them through, light beaming defiantly into the gathering gloom. This is our chance. We can't let fear win. A ripple of energy sparked through the crowd as they began to lock arms, forming a human chain of support. Clara's heart raced, knowing they needed to ground themselves amid the chaos. Tell me your fear, Clara called to Ben, her eyes never leaving the pulsating shadows. The memories stirred like water in a still pond, clear yet dark. What haunts you? He hesitated, throat working as he swallowed hard. It's my mom. I never told her I loved her before she passed. Clara nodded. Then let us face it together. Speak it out loud. And with that, Ben's voice broke a dam. I love you, Mom. I'm sorry. His shout echoed, a fierce declaration against the shadows. Instantly, a bright light flared from Ben's position, a shockwave rippling through the crowd. Suddenly, another scream pierced the night. Clara turned, and horror crashed over her. A young woman was engulfed by the shadows, her face a mask of terror. Clara recognized her, Sarah, a member of the group who had always seemed invulnerable. Help! She cried, hands clawing against the oppressive darkness encasing her. Hold on, Sarah, Clara shouted, fighting against the surge that threatened to drag her back. She couldn't lose anyone else. We're coming. With a shared effort, arms gripped tighter, Clara faced the shadows, fear coiling in her stomach. She turned back to the crowd. Now, everyone, release your pain. Let it rise. They began to speak a chorus of fears, memories drifting upwards like incense. I never forgave myself. I failed. I lost them. I didn't say goodbye. Each vocal confession ignited the air, their collective suffering mingling with Clara's fierce determination. With every word released, the shadows began to twist and recoil, light unfurling like a banner against a battlefield. Clara felt the warmth of the eldritch pearl pulse in her hands. Channeling that energy, she faced the dark mass encompassing Sarah. We're with you. Keep fighting. And then, she saw it a flicker in the darkness, a glimpse of Sarah fighting against the grasping hands of the shadows. She was still there, still fighting. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of desperate voices blending into a single wail. Clara could feel the darkness straining against their light, but it was fragile. Grab her hands, Clara shouted to a few members nearest Sarah, pointing urgently. Pull her back to us. In an act of unity, hands flew outward, reaching for Sarah. The shadows hissed, swirling tighter around her, but they tightened their grip. Clara leaned into the light, commanding it with every ounce of her energy. As Sarah lunged for them, Time froze. Clara locked eyes with her, the connection electric. You can do it. Trust us. Suddenly, the darkness lunged again, but it wasn't just shadows, something deeper, something more ancient pushed against them. Clara felt the pull of her own hidden fears rise as she fought to hold onto the light. Let it out. A voice stammered, muffled yet loud, sparking a wave of grief and yearning. But something tugged at the edges of Clara's consciousness, dark and sinister, whispering sweetly of despair. She couldn't let it take her. She wouldn't. Just then, the ground shook violently, and the chasm began to groan. Clara's heart raced as the echoes of her growing doubts mingled with the howling chaos around them. Would they survive? As the last gripping reach encircled Sarah, and the glint of hope flickered in Clara's heart, the shadows erupted into a tempest, threatening to swallow them whole. Was the light enough, or were they stepping into their end? Clara clutched the eldritch pearl tighter, feeling energy surge through her, pulse by pulse. This final confrontation ignited her resolve, but uncertainty hung in the air like a storm cloud. Hold on tight, she screamed, as the shadows coiled tighter and tighter. What would they uncover in this maelstrom of fear, and would it prove too great? And then, a blinding flash erupted, sending Clara reeling. Her vision darkened, the world sucked into a void where nothing existed. But she could hear them, distant voices calling through the dark. Was this the end, or merely the beginning of their truths? Clara's world erupted in a cascade of blinding light, but it was not warmth that washed over her. It felt like icy shards striking her skin, a vicious contrast to the pulsing energy of the eldritch pearl. For a moment, she was lost, engulfed in darkness, glimmers of white swirling around her as she fought to regain her senses. When her awareness returned, she found herself lying on a cold stone floor. Her body ached, but she forced her eyes open, absorbing her surroundings. A vast chamber spread before her, the walls dripping with shadows that seemed to writhe with a life of their own. The eldritch pearl lay in her palm, flickering like a dying star. Panic rose inside her. "Sarah," Clara called, but the sound reverberated through the emptiness, swallowed by the gloom. She pushed herself up, scanning the area for any sign of her friends. One by one, they began to emerge from the shadows, disoriented but alive. Ben staggered forward, his face pale, eyes wide with shock. "What happened?" he gasped, staggering beside Clara. "I thought we were lost." From somewhere behind him, Clara heard muffled cries. It was the others huddled together, confusion etched on their faces. Had the shadows truly swallowed them whole? The familiar weight of dread settled in her stomach again, but she forced herself to stand tall. They were here. They had survived. "We need to regroup," Clara stated, her voice steady despite the uncertainty clawing at her insides. "The shadows, they have a mind of their own. We can't let them take over." But shadows thickened, creeping closer as if drawn towards them. Hisses snared the air, coaxing forth forgotten fears. Clara shuddered. Each whisper seemed a direct jab to her heart, sharp and malicious. They were not done yet. "Everyone, remember what we just faced," Clara urged, clutching the eldritch pearl like a beacon of hope. They needed to fight. Release your fears again. Speak them out loud. As Clara's words reached them, one by one, her friends began to voice their pain. A ball of collective sorrow drifted towards the shadows as their declarations of despair recoiled from Clara's light. "I couldn't save him," yelled Maria, her hands grasping her hair in frustration. "I was supposed to be the strong one." The shadows recoiled slightly, quivering at Maria's pain. But then another whisper darted through the dim room. "You failed. You always will." "No," Clara shouted, seizing the energy spilling from the pearl and sending waves of light crashing against the creep of despair. "Your fear doesn't define you. We decide who we are." With every declaration, her friends felt the weight lift, but voices of doubt wailed louder, drowning out hope. Clara felt the pressure mounting, shadows nipping at her heels, whispering dark promises of failure, of regret. But then, just beyond the periphery of her sight, something flickered in the darkness. A figure emerged, a tall silhouette, its outline distorted. Clara's heart thudded in her chest. Was it a monster, or perhaps one of them, consumed by shadows? Clara had called her name with an echoing chill that sliced through her resolve. "You think hope will protect you? You forget we are what you fear the most. The figure stepped closer, revealing a face that twisted Clara's inside the face of her younger self, pale and full of lingering uncertainties. The past surged from the shadows, vibrant and consuming. You can't escape us, it taunted. You're not as strong as they think. In that pivotal moment, doubt clawed at her throat. Clara clenched her eyes shut, her mind racing. What did she have to do to silence those voices? Face it, she screamed into the darkness, arms stretching wide. I am stronger. I belong here. The figure wavered, flickering like a dying candle, but it would not disappear easily. As she locked eyes with her younger self, Clara's heart thundered, her voice breaking through the chaos. I forgive you. I forgive me. The shadows shrieked, an anguished wail that echoed through the chamber as they began to sway and pull back, the light of the pearl growing brighter, illuminating the space around them. But just when Clara felt a surge of triumph, the ground trembled again. Cracks formed beneath their feet, and the darkness seemed eager to consume them once more. Would the light be enough? With fear intertwining with hope, Clara raised the eldritch pearl, calling out to her friends. Together. Now. And just as their hands united, a deafening roar erupted from the chasm itself, shattering the atmosphere. Was it the end of their battle, or merely a prelude to something far more terrifying? In that heartbeat of uncertainty, Clara's stomach dropped. This was just the beginning. The roar resonated through the vast chamber, a sound that shook the very foundations of their reality. Clara felt the vibrations ripple through her bones, a terrifying reminder of the power lurking in the dark. Panic flared in the eyes of her friends. Ben staggered back, and Maria reached for Clara's arm, her grip tightened like a vice. Clara, what now? Maria's voice was laced with fear, the shadows pulsing around them, almost mocking their struggle. We stand together, Clara shouted, drawing strength from the warmth of the eldritch pearl in her palm. We don't let them take us. But even as she spoke, a chilling laugh sliced through the air. The shadows thickened with grotesque faces, eyes glowing with hunger. Together? You're more broken than you realize, one whispered, its voice slithering around them like smoke. Clara felt a tremor of doubt claw at her heart, threatening to pull her under. Focus, she urged, breathing heavily, eyes darting around as if searching for escape. Speak your truth. Don't let them win. I can't. It's too much, Ben cried, his voice trembling as he stumbled back. The shadows reacted, biting closer. Clara could see their twisted forms, hunger etched into their features. Ben, listen. Clara's eyes locked onto his. Remember the light. Remember why we're here. For a heartbeat, silence engulfed them, the shadows hesitating under Clara's fierce gaze. It's okay to be scared, but that is not all you are. Maria stepped forward, trembling but resolute. I'm tired of being afraid, she breathed, voice low yet powerful. I want to fight. The shadows hissed, recoiling momentarily from Maria's resolve, but their darkness surged. You think courage is enough? You'll only live to regret it. No, I want to live in regret. Clara screamed, sheer determination igniting her words. We all have regrets. But that is not our future. The eldritch pearl thrummed against her skin, pulsating with fierce light. It felt alive, stronger than before, as if it knew the stakes of their battle. Clara raised it higher, summoning every glimmer of hope she had fought for. I am not what I fear, she screamed, and the very air crackled with energy. I am stronger than my past. We are stronger together. The shadows writhed, forming a tempest of darkness. Clara's heart raced as they screeched in fury. There, at the heart of the chaos, lay a dark whirlpool, swallowing everything in sight. Together. We say it out loud. Clara urged, throwing her arms wide. My name is Clara, and I refuse to be broken. Ben, he shouted, stepping forward. This isn't the end for me. Maria, she yelled, finding her voice. I choose to step into the light. With each proclamation, the shadows quaked, their wicked forms flickering wildly. Clara felt a rush of energy from her friends, a wild surge breaking free. The darkness recoiled as if stung, retreating momentarily. No, you can't escape your truth. The chilling voice echoed around them. But Clara pressed on, the faint spark of hope igniting within her. We hold it together. We are the light in this darkness. As their voices soared, the eldritch pearl transformed, shimmering with fluorescent rays that burst forth, piercing the heavy air. The shadows screeched, twisting away like mist in the sun. Yet despite their retreat, Clara felt the ground tremble, fissures forming beneath her. "Clara!" Maria screamed as the surface broke apart, revealing a swirling abyss. "What do we do?" Clara's eyes widened with realization. "We leap. Trust the light." With a shared breath, they grasped hands in solidarity, hearts pounding in unison. The darkness clawed at their feet, grasping, threatening to pull them into the unknown. Together, Clara cried again as they jumped into the swirling void. The light of the pearl flared blindingly. The last thing Clara saw was the gaping maw of shadows, and she felt the rush of wind as they fell, but what lay below? The light flickered uncertainly as they plunged deeper, carrying with it unspoken fears and a glimmer of hope. Would they find safety, or were they spiraling into a more horrific realm? In the scattered fragments of light, Clara's heart raced. She could almost hear the echoes of her friends' courage and uncertainty swirling around her. But she knew one truth. They had to face whatever awaited them together, and in the chilling silence that followed, Clara realized that deeper shadows lurked beneath the surface. They were far from finished. What horrors lay beyond the fall? The world exploded around them like shattering glass, a kaleidoscope of light and darkness blending into a dizzying whirlwind. Clara's heart raced, pounding against her ribcage like a relentless drum in a desperate battle for survival. She couldn't be sure what lay ahead, but one thing burned bright in her mind. They had chosen to leap together, and together was their only strength as they fell. The air grew heavier, shadows lurking just out of sight, whispering taunts and reigniting their buried fears. The sensation of weightlessness twisted into unease, but Clara tightened her grip on the eldritch pearl, knowing its power could guide them. She felt the pulse of energy radiating from it, an anchor in the chaos. "Stay close," Clara shouted through the rush of wind whipping around them. "Don't let go." Ben and Maria flanked her, voices strong, fear mingling with resolve. Yet shadows began to swirl ominously below, twisting like hungry serpents, drawing nearer as they fell deeper. In various shades of despair, they reached out like hands trying to grasp, to pull Clara and her friends into endless darkness. "Clara!" Ben cried, panic rising in his voice. "What do we do when we land?" "We trust each other," Clara shouted back, the words clawing at her throat. The echoes of their past and the burdens they carried were spiraling in the void, but she wouldn't allow fear to drown out their courage. Suddenly, a burst of light erupted from the eldritch pearl, illuminating the shadows fleeing like cockroaches from sudden brightness. Clara felt an electric jolt surge through her as the light pushed against the darkness, forcing it back, sending a wave of reassurance through her soul as their feet finally found ground beneath them. Clara and her friends tumbled forward, rolling into a vast chamber illuminated by soft, ethereal light. Breaths came in gasps as they steadied themselves, a moment of silence washing over them. Yet their eyes darted around, scanning for threat or surprise. "Is everyone okay?" Clara asked, glancing at Ben and Maria, who looked slightly dazed but unharmed. "Yes," Maria gasped, brushing dirt from her clothes. "But where are we?" The chamber was filled with vibrant light that shimmered against the walls like sunlit water, yet the feelings of unease lingered. Shadows still flickered, darting across the edges of their vision, waiting for a moment of hesitation. "Look!" Ben pointed to an archway at the other end, a doorway emanating warmth and vibrancy. "Maybe there is something in there?" Clara nodded, harnessing their shared resolve like armor against approaching darkness. "We need to check it out." Together, as they approached, whispers grew clearer, words tangling with their thoughts, each one evoking the heartache of lost loves, missed chances, and emotions that could shatter them like crystal. But they pressed on, reaching the archway where the shadows sought to encroach upon their minds. "Speak your truths," Clara urged, recalling their earlier moment of strength. "Let us not let these shadows define us." "I'm afraid of never being enough," Maria admitted, her voice a raw whisper that echoed against the walls. Instantly, Clara felt an eruption of energy, the shadows faltering at the outcry of honesty, With the pulse of courage radiating, Clara stepped forward, her heart pounding as she let her voice shake, but not falter. I'm terrified of losing those I love. She closed her eyes, envisioning their faces. But I refuse to live in regret. Once again, the intensity of their declarations swelled in the room, the shadows flickering in retreat. Together, they began to share, every revelation a powerful counter to the encroaching darkness. I never forgave myself for my father's death. Ben shouted, eyes fierce. But I know I have to forgive. Each truth cracked through the shadow's grip, illuminating the space around them, finally revealing what lay beyond the veil of sorrow they had lived in fear of confronting. And as they filled the chamber with their voices, the shadows howled in agony, as if the very fabric of despair was tearing apart. The eldritch pearl glowed with transformative light, expanding outward and weaving their words into a radiant tapestry, illuminating the truth. Suddenly, the archway shimmered, revealing visions of their loved ones, flickering shadows morphing into radiant figures. Clara gasped. It was them, friends, family, lost connections returned in luminous form. Clara, a familiar voice whispered, the warmth filling her chest. It was her mother, smiles shining like the sun emerging from behind clouds. You're not alone anymore. But just as Clara felt hope bubbling up, the shadows surged forward, desperate to reclaim what was theirs. You thought you could escape the past? A dark voice hissed. You are bound by your fears. No, Clara shouted, stepping ahead of her friends, feeling the energy of the eldritch pearl coursing through her. I am not my fears. We are more than our darkness. With that final declaration, the light erupted. The chamber transformed, shadows collapsing and evaporating into nothingness. The warmth embraced them, a silky caress soothing their souls, and as the echoes of pain faded, they stood hand in hand, illuminated and triumphant. Clara gazed at her friends, a wave of relief washing over her. We did it. We faced the shadows. They smiled, breaths coming in unison, knowing the weight of their shared journey was now transformed. The darkness shattered through raw honesty and courage. In that moment, Clara understood more than just the power of the eldritch pearl. They were united by their choices, their truths, their connection. The shadows would always exist, but she realized they had the strength to meet those shadows head-on. Each step taken from here would echo through the rest of their lives, brighter and bolder than before. And somewhere deep inside, Clara felt the thrill of hope flickering fiercely. Ready? She asked her friends, a smile breaking across her face. Ready, they replied, laughter bubbling forth like sunlight breaking through clouds. With courage etched in their hearts, they stepped forward into the light, ready to reclaim their futures beyond the dark. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next thrilling stories waiting just for you. Smash that like button to help feed the algorithm. Your support is vital. And don't forget to flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Share this video immediately with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for the channel. Don't wait even one more second.